one. Because apparently Kwame Brown doesn't pay attention when black people talk, black people speak. So I'm gonna see whether or not he'll pay attention if a white person is speaking. My what you call it is going is kind of crazy, but that's okay. We're gonna go ahead and get started here. May not be able to, we may have to post this video. That's okay, we'll post this video. The stream ain't working that well because of the data rate. That's okay. So let's just go ahead and stop that stream. We'll go ahead and use that tag. So I've already previously said to Kwame Brown that you cannot solve systemic problems with individual solutions, right? And that's the main reason why he's a distraction. When reparations is the only solution to the gap or the problems that we face as descendants of American slaves, he, as a clicked in black conservative into the group of sons of ruckus, is what I call them, the gaggle of YouTube black thought leaders, quotations around thought, who basically are responsible for a large amount of the bullshit narratives that we have to combat when we're talking about black empowerment. Um, so all of these people are clicked in, right? There are only one or two people removed from each other, but they're all clicked in together. And Kwame is the latest addition to that. Kwame Brown, again, a person who is kissing up in Tommy Sotomayor's ass. Tommy Sotomayor, somebody who is basically saying all sorts of crazy shit, all sorts of racist shit, all sorts of genocidal shit. He literally was saying that black people as a group are stupid. He put that on a monetized YouTube video. He said that black people, there needs to be another black Holocaust. He said that on a monetized YouTube channel, right? So keep all of this stuff in perspective. And this was the person that Kwame Brown was on his program laughing and giggling and kikiing and cacaing. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, the video of him in his interview with Tommy Sotomayor is still on Kwame Brown's YouTube page. He's also clicked in with Judge Joe Brown, who's clicked in with that anonymous piece of shit, the Black Authority, right? And Judge Joe Brown, the person who was talking about reparations, shouldn't be given out because you niggas may end up buying chicken sandwiches with the money, right? All of these little clicked in black conservative pieces of shit are out here trying to control the narrative of do for selferism. Do for selferism is a narrative that basically tells you that you're responsible for your conditions in America as a descendant of American slaves, and therefore you should change or modify your actions in order for you to have more or things in your life in order for you to improve your life. But these systemic causers that are hundreds of years old at this point, that have hundreds of years of systems on top of systems on top of systems, think tanks on top of think tanks on top of think tanks, millions upon millions upon millions upon billions of dollars in certain cases when you talk about the justice system, pumped into them to refine their sharpness so that they can be perfected in cutting black flesh and serving it on plates for white people to consume. Our pain is literally the consumption of white America. And yet and still these black quote unquote thought leaders, Tariq Nasheed is amongst these gaggle of morons, the sons of Ruckus, the sons of Uncle Ruckus is what I call them. I've tried to say this multiple times that reparations is the only solution. People want to, like Tariq Nasheed, want to get your emotions riled up. And then once you're riled up and you're ready to run, they want to run you in the direction of their own little program. So they want to run you in the direction of their hidden history museum. Oh, you guys are pumped up. Okay, you're pumped up. You're pumped up. You're pumped up. Buy some Ogun juice. Okay, your emotions are pumped up again. We're gonna pump your emotions up again. Your emotions are pumped up, pumped up, pumped up. Buy an FBA flag. Your emotions are pumped up. Okay, cool. Be obedient in my chapters of ADOS. Yeah, I'm going there too. Be obedient. How dare y'all criticize the top of ADOS? We started all this shit. Y'all shut the fuck up. Oh yeah, that happened. Don't think that I'm criticizing one. They're all in that. They're all tangled into this little Sons of Records. But let's zoom back into the latest edition, Kwame Black Conservative Brown, and his fuckery in the form of his advocation of now, since he got into trouble and hot water of having that white lady on, he's now trying to redouble down on trade schools and coding. Kwame, I already got my full stack web development training. I know everything that there is to know on the MERN stack. Um, that hasn't improved my condition in America. That hasn't allowed me to escape white supremacy and institutional racism. And I paid $11,000 for all of that education that I got. That didn't help me out in getting me out of any sort of impoverishment or allowing me to escape racism or having that affect my life in any way, shape, fashion, or form. So I don't know why the hell you're leading those people like a Pied Piper down that. The only thing that you're going to do is giving those full stack web development or whatever those courses are. You're just giving them more tuition money, and so I hope they're giving you a cut of that. Going down the trade school route means that you have a non-traditional education, which means you are actually more susceptible to white supremacy and institutional racism, especially considering we don't have the wealth to patronize our own businesses. We barely have enough wealth. So you're going to have to tap into the $100 trillion of wealth, not the $2.3 trillion of wealth held by descendants of American slaves or black people. Well, we'll say black people because it's actually less when you look at descendants of American slaves specifically and take out outliers like Nigerians and Kenyans and people from the Caribbean who come over here with a certain level of in vivo wealth and a certain level of support by white institutional racist institutions in this country. So I guess we have to go to this point, Kwame. I guess we have to go here. I guess we have to go here. I guess we have to go to the point of us allowing a white lady to tell you what I've already told you. Apparently, you listen more closely when white people talk than if somebody of your own kind speaks. So let her tell you. She works at the St. Louis Fed, so let her tell you.
We all know that college debt has crippled millions of Americans, but according to a new report, just how detrimental it's been to black college graduates is shocking. According to Federal Reserve data that was analyzed by the Wall Street Journal, households with black college graduates in their 30s have not been able to close the wealth gap. In fact, a higher education has done the opposite for them. Not only do more than 84% of college-educated black households in their 30s now have student debt, which is up from 35% 30 years ago,
there's a system at play,
but
right?
the median net worth for black households with college graduates in their 30s has also fallen 84% to just $8,200 from about $50,000 3 decades ago.
You notice that? You notice that value back in the 80s and 90s? You had more people doing trades, right? Okay, so they went from trades to going to college. Okay, cool. But there was still a whole bunch of people in debt back there. That racial wealth gap still was existing, right? Still was existing. And because you had some sort of insularity to the communities of the black people, you had some sort of roundabout way of doing it. How are you going to do that today? How are you going to do that today?
Over the same period, while white counterparts saw their median net worth grow 70% to $138,000. Plus, median income for black college-educated households in their 30s increased only 7% from the early 1990s to the late 2010s to about $76,000. Income for their white peers rose 13% to about $114,000. Here to discuss is Wall Street Journal reporter Rachel Ensign and senior researcher at the Institute for Economic Equity at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, Anna Hernandez Kent. So, Rachel, these numbers just shocked me when I read them earlier today because you think, and everyone's told, you if you want a better life, you want to do better in life, you want to get a better, higher paying job and grow your wealth you go to college. How is it even possible that college is actually putting these people in the hole?
Well, student debt is the reason why it's possible. And right now, college costs have increased so much that families are finding that even to go to a public four-year institution, their children have to take out really large amounts of student debt. $40,000, $50,000. That's pretty normal to go to a public institution, and
And that brings in the question, like, how much are these trade schools going to cost? Are they going to cost to the point where somebody, a black person, a broke black person, can work at a part-time job and still pay for that trade school? Or is it going to be like DeVry, where they're still paying like $15,000, $20,000 a year going to this trade school for for 2 years, or for a year and a half to 2 years to get some certification, because that's going to put them in the exact same position, Kwame, with a less valued piece of paper than a college degree.
after graduating, if your income is not very high, that's somewhat difficult.
And that gap we've already covered is present for black people versus white people. Mr. Don't talk about that because they want you to talk about that because they want you to talk about the racism because that's money for them. No, bitch. Calling that shit out actually is important. So when you have more skills than a white person and you're still going to a job and that job thinks to themselves, oh, well, you're impoverished anyway. I bet you're black. I bet you off rip you ain't got as much money as the white person that I'm hiring. So I could probably give you this shit salary and you'll probably take it because you have to. That's what's going on there. And since they know statistically and institutionally that's correct, they can make that as a policy. They don't even have to have a gamble on that. They can say, hey, there's a black person, I could pay them less. They have less wealth, and so therefore they're more desperate.
To pay off quickly, and you find that people in their 30s still have huge debt loads, and that makes it very difficult to do all of these other things that help build wealth, like buy a home or start investing in stocks and retirement.
And Anna, is this requirement or need to take out so much debt a result of states simply cutting back on the amount of money that they are giving to schools in
No.
their states?
So, speaking for myself and not necessarily the Federal Reserve System, what we've found in our own research has been certainly that it's more difficult today. It's a riskier investment to go to college. And that's a really tough pill to swallow. Part of that, of course, is less investment in public colleges, as you mentioned. But there's a whole systemic legacy of disinvestment, particularly within Black communities, that contributes to the issue as well.
Now notice that, Roland. Notice that, all you bastards that Roland Martin Unfiltered. Her name is Ana Hernandez Kent. She's clearly a white Latino, right? She's clearly a white Latino, but did she say black and brown? Did she say black and brown? Or could she keep the focus on the targeted community which she is talking about? Did she say black and brown, Roland Martin? Or did she just say black? Her name is Ana Hernandez Kent. She's clearly a white Latino. But did she say black and brown? While y'all sitting over there spewing black and brown at your mouths every 5 fucking seconds.
Well,
Let me back that up.
So,
contributes to the issue of disinvestment, particularly within Black communities, that contributes to the issue as well.
Rachel, should we still be telling pretty much all of our graduates from high school go to college? Should we be changing that message and saying some people, college is going to be the perfect thing for you, but there are other options for some of the other people, and that's not a demerit. That doesn't mean you're not smart, but it just means that you...
No, we should tell the black students you grew up in a system of white supremacy and institutional racism. You're going to try to go get a college degree just like your white counterparts in class. And no matter if you're in a shitty high school or whether or not you're an IB, racism is still going to touch you when you decide to apply for college. It's still going to affect your ability to gain wealth. And unless you're willing to go out into the workforce and kiss the ring of white supremacy, you're still going to be broke. You're still going to be struggling. It's just that you're going to have a hell of a lot more complex problems than a person without a college degree is going to have. And regardless, that's going to be the case. And it's unfair. And it is the way it is because we have not done anything about reparations. So go to college at your own risk is what we should tell black high schoolers. That's what they should tell black high schoolers, but they're not going to because people like Kwame Brown and others want to sweep racism underneath the rug. That's what they want to do.
You may not want to take on this much debt in order to get the job that is right for you and that you want.
I think it's complicated. We spoke to 4 young Black millennials in our story, and I don't think any of them regretted going to college. You know, college was a way that they could all get.
See, she's a problem. She's not being realistic. She's a problem.
Jobs in specific areas of interest, but you know, it almost seemed like many of them felt that this really heavy debt load was kind of the price of getting this, fulfilling the career that they wanted. So I think it's complicated and it's a really hard decision for people, given how crushing debt can be, but also how fulfilling a job in an area of interest can be, even with that debt.
But Anna, as Rachel said before, if you're putting off the big decisions in your life, buying the home, possibly getting married, having children, and also just not having the money for the investment that you want to make, is that truly a better life? I mean, I'm just really, maybe this is too philosophical a question, but is that really the kind of life we want to tell people that they should aspire to?
So I think we have to remember that there are people behind these numbers that we're talking about here. So if we're looking at averages, if we're looking at medians, the typical household, we do see that there is payoff at the median, at the average for college graduates compared to their same race non-graduate peers. However, the racial wealth gap is not diminished. It doesn't go away. And I think it's really asking too much to say that college is going to, an individual decision or action is going to change systems of and histories of discrimination and of barriers. So again,
wait, let's back that up, Kwame. Let's back that up. She works for the St. Louis Fed. She works for the St. Louis Fed. And notice, Roland Martin Unfiltered, she didn't say black and brown. She stayed clearly on black people. She didn't mix it out and have to go out to say black and brown. She said black. And she works for the St. Louis Fed, but somehow she has more balls than you two black men. So let's hear her again when she said that about, what was that about? Individual choices surmounting systemic problems. What was that again? Because you heard that again. You already heard that from me, Kwame. I know you've been lurking on my page. You already heard that from me. So let's hear that from her again.
An individual decision or action.
Back it up so it'll be in context.
Diminished. It doesn't go away. And I think it's really asking too much to say that college is going.
Let me back it up all the way to the beginning of her statement.
We do see that there is, if we're looking at averages, there are people. So I think we have to remember that there are people behind these numbers that we're talking about here. So if we're looking at averages, if we're looking at medians, the typical household, we do see that there is payoff at the median, at the average for college graduates compared to their same race non-graduate peers. However, the racial wealth gap is not diminished. It doesn't go away. And I think it's really asking too much to say that college is going to, an individual decision or action is going to change systems of and histories of discrimination and of barriers. Systems of an individual decision or action is going to change systems of and histories.
Like trade schools, like deciding to go to trade schools.
To say that college is going, it doesn't go away. And I think it's really asking too much to say that college is going to, an individual decision or action is going to change.
Like taking a full stack web development course and paying $11,000 for it.
Is going to change systems of and histories. Individual decision or asking too much to say that college is going to, an individual decision or action is going to change systems of and histories of discrimination and of barriers.
Yeah.
So again, I
It's
think it's
almost like
a
in
difficult
order
question.
it's like almost like you need a systemic solution for a systemic problem. That individual choices will not surmount a systemic problem. It's almost like that, right?
To answer, I think we're certainly not saying that you shouldn't go to college. As I said before, the typical payoff does seem to be there for both blacks and white families, but it's not equal. It doesn't diminish that gap whatsoever. And so I think that, as I said before,
So you're going to be just as broke. You're just going to have more problems on your job. You're going to have more complex problems and deadlines on your job. You're going to be just as broke as a person who didn't go to college. You're just going to have different problems on your job. You're going to have the same job insecurity that another person who didn't go to college has, but you're going to at least believe that you're more qualified to get another underpaid job somewhere else. That's going to keep you exactly where the fuck you are. Kwame.
it's a riskier investment. You need to weigh the pros and cons. Rachel was saying she spoke to 4 families. What we're seeing in the overall data is that black families are more likely to say that the costs outweighed the benefits financially speaking. But the majority still do say that it was.
Well, wait, they're not going to say the same thing somehow for trade schools and coding, though, right? Even though I personally am speaking of, as somebody who's already put their money where their mouth is and already got my full stack web development certification. And I can tell you directly that coming out, you had ignorant fucking people who barely knew what the fuck was going on in the class, somehow basically being, what did that guy, some agile master, there's like a particular scrum master. He went from a fucking a person who knew nothing about full stack web development to a scrum master somewhere. That had nothing to do with him being white, though, right? Fuck out of here.
Worth it financially. So you really have to weigh that. Even if they are putting it off, are they going to have potentially better life than their non-graduate peers? It's possible. There's individual circumstances which have to be considered as well.
You know what she said there to all you black conservatives, you dumb fucks like Judge Joe Brown, all you little bastards like TBA, Professor Black Truth, all you little do for selferism fuckers like Tommy Sotomayor, as well as Kwame Brown. You know what she just said? Hard work doesn't pay if you're black, unless you're an exception. Unless you're selected to be an exception. That's what she just said.
So, Rachel, is there anything that these black college graduates could do to reduce the amount of their debt loads going in, getting the degree, or also after the fact? What can they do if you are one of the people who are being held down and weighted down by this much debt?
I mean, I think that the one young man in our story who was able to build a successful financial life, he's 29 and he has a big investment account. He bought a 4-bedroom home. He got a scholarship that covered most of his college education. So that, I think, is the reason why he was able to do that when he got out of, within a few years of getting out of college. There are programs that forgive debt. The problem is it's very difficult my understanding is they're somewhat difficult to get into. And even if you technically qualify, in a prior story I wrote, I spoke to a young man who was hoping to get it, but he really wasn't sure he was going to. And, if he didn't get it, he'd just have $100,000 of debt hanging over his head still. So I think that on paper is an option, but in reality can be much more difficult to get than you would think.
So she has no solution.
Rachel Ensign, Anna Hernandez-Kent.
So hopefully that helps you there, Kwame. You seem to love hearing shit from white people and white women in particular. So hopefully that those 2 white women, specifically the white Latino there from the St. Louis Fed, specifically as it relates to Roland Martin Unfiltered and you bastards constantly saying black and brown when it's really just a black issue. Just say brown and black at the very least. Put the brown people who you consider to be more important in front of black people, at the very least, Roland Martin, if you're going to do that. But hopefully that helped you, Kwame. Hopefully, hearing it from the lips of a white woman, a white Latino, still a white woman. Hopefully that helped you in your summation of figuring out that systemic problems need systemic solutions, and reparations is the only systemic solution that actually addresses all of these problems. Do you need more? Probably, but that is the biggest. That is 99. That is the 90% below the waterline of the iceberg. Trade schools and coding is just another DeVry Institute. That's all it is. Another for-profit scam is what you're advocating for. Most of those for-profit scam schools are currently out of business, and what you're trying to do is single-handedly bring them fucking back. That's all you're doing, Kwame. So hopefully hearing it from a fucking white lady helped you in understanding that maybe this black man is telling you the fucking truth.